Michael, it's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
It's very interesting. You are at the Open Conference 2015, a lot of entrepreneurship zeal. And I think you have been a hit with the crowd. The question to ask is, all these emerging entrepreneurs would want to find out how has the landscape changed. It's more challenging, yet very interesting. So when you reflect back to where you have been with Sequoia all these years, how do you see the challenges coming upon, and what do you advise the coming entrepreneurs to take this on?
Sure. Well, the first answer is I think it's potentially a very exciting time for entrepreneurs, perhaps one of the most exciting times for technical entrepreneurs. And the reason is there's so many dramatic technology changes, almost exponential changes in technology that are causing massive disruption. Disruption is always a great time, a great period to start a company. So I've mentioned in the talk bioinformatics, the cost of the genome sequencing coming down from $1 billion to heading towards $100. That's causing massive change there. In infrastructure, IT infrastructure, the cost of commodity computing, the power of commodity computing to replace traditional big iron, they call it, and to shift the architecture towards sort of a Google-esque virtualized architecture. That's causing dramatic change. And many others, the rise of mobile computing, mobile apps, and so on. There's enough shifts and changes to potentially make it an incredibly exciting time for entrepreneurs. However, there are things to watch out for. I mean, the things that environmentally change for entrepreneurs, spaces get very crowded, areas get hyped up, valuations go up, which an entrepreneur might think is a good thing, but is often a bad thing because it's deceptive. They get lured into a space, or they think it's a great idea to be the 15th company in a space because it's a very frothy environment, and they get investment, and then the music stops, and then it's not so great. So those are the things that are changing, both good and bad. The disruptions are good. The environment can be challenging. But one more thing that doesn't change is the entrepreneurs that are sort of self-select to be the ones that have the best shot. That really hasn't changed. And those are those entrepreneurs that I described in my talk that have these characteristics of just insanely driven folks, very obsessed with making a big difference in what they want to accomplish. Very focused, frugal, scrappy, all those characteristics of the key entrepreneurs, that hasn't changed.
It's interesting you mentioned that, because most of the entrepreneurs who have done this before are always focused on the fundamentals, because those don't change in any economic scenario. But the newer ones who are inspired by these unicorns and they want to get onto the bandwagon, they don't get this. So it will be especially interesting to learn from you as an experienced VC to your advice that the fundamentals have to be there. Without that, you cannot dream of becoming a unicorn or a big valuation. So the first question is, a little bit more stress on fundamentals. So what hasn't changed? So they'll get to learn.
Mm-hmm. Well, it really depends on your definition of fundamentals, because you can fall into a trap, a sort of conservative thinking trap, which some do, which is if you think about traditional business fundamentals, as in age-old things of, profitability statement of a company and rules that have worked in the past and so on, that could be considered fundamentals. And some of those are the ones that get blown out of the water with a new business model. The trick for a good VC, I think, is to discern the difference between a new entrepreneur coming up with an idea where they are just sort of overly enamored with, as you say, these unicorns, and have an idea that is more of a sort of unoriginal, I want to be just like them idea, maybe a different topic, but I want to be just like them, and isn't driven by something really fundamental that they've gotten onto. Because the best entrepreneurs that really break all the rules, what it is somehow they've gotten onto something that the rest of us aren't seeing quite yet, whether it's an Airbnb or Dropbox or some of these others. And those are the ones that we have to constantly scan for. So do they fit into sort of traditional business rules models? Sometimes not. But that difference between the ones that think they can break the rules because it looks like everybody else is doing it, versus the ones that really have gotten onto something, unique and valuable and inspirational, that's the trick.
The other question when they come to seasoned veterans like you and Sequoia especially is, at what stage and for what companies would Sequoia be interested in funding? And because it is one of the top, elite firms, they always want to focus on these things. Let me try out. what is your advice? At what stage and what kind of verticals that you guys focus on?
Well, it's a tough question only because we've made it an obsession to make sure we're potentially your most valuable partner from company inception to a very late stage these days. With the whole range of funds, we can literally make a few $100,000 investment at a seed level, as I mentioned in a few of the really notable examples that I discussed in my presentation, all the way up to a company that's a private company growing really nicely that needs to raise hundreds of millions of dollars. We could hit that. So it sort of depends. There isn't a single answer. I did mention that by category these days, a lot of the companies that are consumer-facing companies that need to get consumers to do something they don't do today, adopt an app wildly and use it every single day, or a service wildly. Those are a little trickier to do at the slide stage. And the reason is because as experienced as we are, or anyone is, it's really difficult to predict how exactly right that entrepreneur is going to get the nuances correct. So in that context, some of the seed investing environment, the angel ecosystem, has been very useful because it can take a very small amount of money, get something out there, iterate a few times, start to show that they're onto something, and then that's perfect for us. I also mentioned, though, in other contexts, IT infrastruture, we could invest at the, not even the idea stage, sometimes just the people stage, because different set of customers, a little bit more historical pattern match on what an enterprise will buy or what pain point they'll respond to or what they won't, as opposed to trying to predict consumers. So those kind of companies we can invest, with an entrepreneur on slides.
The valuations is a big issue with most entrepreneurs. At some level, we think there are some strong fundamentals to look at when it comes to valuations. Other times, we feel that anybody could come with any valuation. So what is your take and your advice to entrepreneurs when it comes to valuations?
We've traditionally tried, at least, to be very, very disciplined about valuations, and it gets very difficult in times where the market forces are driving, the competitive sort of hype forces sometimes are driving prices up so high. What we've learned, at least, though, is for the companies that truly are going to become world-changing companies, and you can tell there's enough signs already in what they're doing in sort of a transformation of how human beings behave or interact or work. For those companies, the investment opportunities, unfortunately for us, typically even at a very early stage, seem very expensive. And some of the mistakes, we would characterize our mistakes as companies where we've decided in those cases, well, it's still too expensive, and we've passed and then regretted it in hindsight. From any measurable metric, market comp, whatever, it was too expensive at that time. But seeing the pattern of that one being the unicorn, as you call it, that's a trick. We have to constantly dial it. We get it right many times. Sometimes we don't get it right. The ones that we're sort of benefit greatly from our discipline, though, is when it's more generic categories of companies. And a company is going to be a good company for sure, but isn't one of these companies that's going to change the world necessarily. Yet they're also asking very, very high valuations because everybody else is, and that's a trickier business because we, in many cases, would rather pass on those than go with everybody else.
Right. Open is a great conference. We've been doing it every year for entrepreneurial causes with a lot of spirit and vibe, etc. And your take on your experience at Open 2015?
It's been fantastic. I've heard really great things. As I mentioned, we have a partner who's attended many times in the past, Araf Halali, it's Pakistani. We've had one of my other partners, Mike Briggs, give a talk here, and he reported positive things. And then many of our entrepreneurs are of Pakistani descent. As you know, Amir Khan with Viptela, which is literally one of our most promising companies, and he's Pakistani. The founder of FireEye is also Pakistani, which was a wonderful success for us. So, great community to get tighter and tighter with.
All right. It's a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Appreciate
so much.
it.